Another Thursday for us to talk on health-related matters. Good day, dear televiewers and dear listeners on radio. Thank you for joining us on another edifying edition of the program, You and Your Health, aired on Equinoxe Radio Multimedia. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Are you aware that cervical cancer is the fourth most common cancer in women globally? Are you equally aware that about 300,000 women die of cervical cancer every year? Today, we are going to be telling you all what you need to learn about cervical cancer, but that will be only after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back with us on the program. With me in the studio, we have Dr. Mbi Kobenge Fidelia. We equally have Dr. Ayuk Suzanne. She's a pediatrician, while Dr. Mbi Kobenge Fidelia is a gynecologist at the Douala General Hospital. It is a pleasure having you, both of you on the program today.
Thank you very much, Madam Immaculate Fogwe. We are very happy to be here. We are honored to always be received by Equinoxe TV to sensitize women in Cameroon.
Today, I was starting today's program with you, Dr. Mbi Kobe. It's not the first time I'm having you on the program. I think I've had you on several occasions. Today we are going to be looking at a topic that is very crucial, and that is cervical cancer. First of all, before you even tell us what exactly it is cervical cancer common in Cameroon? Yes,
it's pretty common in Cameroon. It is, amongst women, the second most common cancer in Cameroon after breast cancer, and it is a cause for public health concern.
What exactly is cervical cancer?
It is a cancer that is caused by a human papillomavirus. This virus is sexually transmissible. And this virus, you can get it at any age as long as you're sexually active. And you have to know that it can, from a normal cervix to the beginning of an infection, the beginning of cancer, it can take up to 15 years. So it is quite sneaky as a disease, and that is why we offer screening as from the 7th year after the first sexual intercourse to be able to trap the changes in the cervix before cancer starts.
What are the major factors that can put someone at high risk of cervical cancer in Cameroon?
Thank you for that question. An early age of starting sexual activity, when you have multiple partners, when you change partners regularly, if usually you have other sexually transmitted illnesses, they reduce your immunity and they increase the risk of getting the human papillomavirus. For example, when you have HIV, when you have hepatitis B, you are at risk, higher risk of being an HPV positive patient as well.
A lot of doctors say the reason why the fertility is very high is because of late screening. How often should a woman get screened for cervical cancer?
That is a beautiful question. Screening should start from the 7th year after the first sexual intercourse. So, for example, if a girl starts intercourse at the age of 15, her screening should start at the age of 22. After the first 3 years of normal screening, if all the results are normal, she should do every 3 years of screening up to the age of 65.
You are a gynecologist at the Douala General Hospital. Tell us, how much does screening cost there?
So we do screening for cervical cancer in the form of a pap smear. It costs 18,000 francs. It's called in French frottis cervico-vaginal.
Are there some major symptoms to watch out as far as cervical cancer is concerned?
Usually the very first complaint is irregular bleeding after sexual intercourse. If you have any time when you've had a sexual contact and you see traces of blood, please do not ignore it. Go for a consultation by a gynecologist.
Personally, why do you think a lot of women diagnose, the diagnosis is done late to you?
I think...
Don't you think the price is so high?
Well, that is why I can accept that 18,000 francs as a test for an average Cameroonian may be a little costly, but in reality it's once every 3 years. So at the end of the day, it's actually a big plus to do your screening and be declared healthy than to wait and have symptoms and then you go and find out that you are in an advanced stage of the disease.
Talking about the advanced stage, what are the different stages of cervical cancer?
So there are 4 stages of cervical cancer. We have stage 1 to stage 4. Unfortunately, many women come up as from stage 2B, and we know that surgery in gynecology is readily offered before stage 2B. After stage 2B, you would have to go through chemotherapy and radiotherapy first before we decide if we can go in for surgery later. Sometimes we are not able to do so because when the disease advances, it has a lot of side effects. It can cause it can infiltrate the ureters and cause renal insufficiency. It can perforate the rectum and cause fistulas. So you can have stool coming out through your vagina, and if it goes through into the ureters or the bladder, you can have urine coming in through your vagina. So it really affects the quality of life in the late stage. It's very, very important, therefore, to catch the disease before it becomes cancer, since we are limited on the stages that we would readily go for a surgery. The surgery is called a Vartan's hysterectomy. It's an enlarged hysterectomy, and women usually are quite scared of it, but it's something that is actually quite effective and can save lives. When it is proposed to you, when you are at that stage where it's proposed, please do not hesitate. You go in for it.
Is there a possibility for a woman suffering with cervical cancer to get pregnant?
Yes, surprisingly, we have had several cases that were discovered with cervical cancer because they were pregnant and started bleeding. And then they came in and we found out that there was cervical cancer. Just last month, we had a case also in the hospital who was diagnosed in the labor room from Yaoundé, where she had a postpartum hemorrhage. It's bleeding after delivery. And then they saw that there was a huge cervical lesion and there was cancer on the cervix. So sometimes pregnancy has occurred despite the cancer being in place. And unfortunately, for the advanced cases, some pregnancies have had to be terminated. They were not able to be taken to term because we saw the stage and we had to save the mother's life first. So we had to put her through radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and we had to terminate the pregnancy.
Okay, now I'll move to you, Dr. Yuk Suzanne, who will be talking about treatment as far as cervical cancer is concerned, and equally vaccination. Is there a possibility of treating cervical cancer even when it's at the third stage?
At the third stage, generally, you do chemotherapy. And for the vaccination, when the cancer is at the third stage, you do not do vaccination. Mm-hmm. That's why we want to advise the public that it is necessary to start vaccinating children, especially when they are from 9 years to 15 years of age. And we all know that the human papilloma virus, it's one of the causes of cervical cancer. So when you start vaccinating children at an early age, it will prevent them from having the cancers.
Mm-hmm. So why is it that it's only this particular age range that you're given? You said 9 years to 13 years, is that it?
Yes.
To 15 years. Why is it this particular age range? Why not a lady of about 25 years, 26 years?
Okay, thank you very much. We start at this particular age because the children we consider them not yet sexually active. Mm-hmm. So when they are not, because when you give vaccines when children are already, we do not give vaccines when children
they're already sexually active.
Yeah. We don't give vaccines when they're already exposed. We consider that from 15 years upward, some of them are already exposed to the human papilloma virus, so the vaccine will not be necessary.
But I think there are some people that when they come to the hospital, they are tested negative. So if I'm tested negative, why is it not a possibility for me to receive that vaccine?
So I would like to answer that question. Okay. There is a criteria to be eligible for the vaccine if you are sexually active. What are the criteria? You are sexually active within only 1 year period from your first intercourse. And then you do 2 HPV DNA tests. You usually send them to Centre Pasteur in Yaoundé, Laboratoire Centre Pasteur. And 2 times you do the test, spaced 6 months, and both are negative. And then you are eligible for the vaccine. So you should provide that result to a gynecologist to show proof that the 2 times are negative before you can go ahead for the vaccine. Each testing is 36,000 francs. It's not usually obvious for an average Cameroonian to spend 36,000 francs on a test, let alone twice.
Exactly.
So that is why we say if you're already sexually active, no need to stress yourself out. You start your screening. You are very eligible from the 7th year of the first intercourse, and then you do it every 3 years until the age of 65. If at 65 it's normal, you do not need to worry about screening any longer.
Despite the availability of these vaccines, why the surge in cases of cervical cancer? Let's take in the case of Cameroon.
I think because people do not go in for screening right away. They do not do routine screening. It's actually something that any working class person, no matter your field of work, you should put aside some money for screening, for prevention of disease. We generally wait for symptoms to come in before we go in to check for diseases. And unfortunately for cervical cancer, most of the time when there are symptoms of irregular bleeding, of contact bleeding, it's usually a bit advanced.
I'd like us to focus on something. You said for those who have multiple sexual partners, they are at high risk of cervical cancer. Is it that it's the men that carry this virus in them?
Men carry, women carry. A sexually transmitted disease is not gender specific. It can come from anyone, a man or a woman. So we are saying in other developed countries, for example, in the USA and Germany, boys are being vaccinated from the age 9. But we follow World Health Organization policy. It's not yet installed that in African countries we should go ahead and vaccinate the boys. Eventually it will come. And so we vaccinate our girls according to World Health Organization rules, and we start from the age of 9. It's to protect them from future exposure. A woman can have HPV, a man can have HPV, and they can share it with their partner.
A free screening is ongoing at the Douala General Hospital. Tell us more about that screening.
We are very excited about that screening. This is the 3rd year that we have been doing open door health campaign for our department. This year specifically, it's for the Department of the Mother and Child. That is why Madame Ayok Suzanne, my partner here, has been talking also about the vaccines for the pediatric unit. It's a 3-day process. I'm actually wearing the T-shirt very proudly with our logo. We are telling the population, the women, that they are welcome. They are welcome from Douala, from the surroundings of Douala. They should come in for their screening this Thursday. It's currently ongoing.
And it's free of charge, right?
Completely free of charge.
Okay.
We are doing free screening for anemia. We are doing free screening, clinical exam for the breast, and we are doing free pap smears for the cervix, for cervical cancer. So those 3, it's a big plus. Today, tomorrow, and Saturday. Come one, come all.
Exactly, as Shirley said, come one, come all. It's free, and take advantage of such an opportunity, because it might not be an opportunity next time, because you have to pay money just to get the screening. And that's where we're ending today's edition of the program You're in Your Health, aired on Equinoxe Radio Multimedia. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe, and I received technical assistance from Raphael Dipanda. Have a lovely day in the company of more programs on Equinoxe Radio and, of course, television. Stay with us.